Welcome to TGS, Transform, Grow, Succeed. This podcast is about your work as a caring professional and the ideas that we can share to elevate and expand what we do to ensure that all those that we serve get the best of what we have to offer. My name is Dr. Tim Gravoy, Executive Director of TGS Educational Consulting, and I'm excited to introduce Kyla Maciosek, Bachelor of Science and Master of Arts in Teaching, and who's also the founder of Nature Created Play. Kyla has been teaching educators about nature play for over a decade, and Nature Created Play honors childhood by bringing back nature as an integral part of learning. And through Kyla's organization, she's been supporting institutions in transforming their outdoor spaces into nature immersive learning and play environments. Kyla also supports early childhood educators' professional development through in-person and virtual workshops. Kyla loves helping teachers create child-centered environments that support children in all areas of development. And I can tell you that right now that her workshops in Tucson just absolutely fill out. So when Kyla is not at work, though, you can catch her at the gym, practicing yoga, hiking, of course, and reading. And as a matter of fact, Kyla read 111 books last year. And I'll tell you what, I'm a reader too, but I don't think I got anywhere close to that. Kyla, did I get that right?
Yeah, you absolutely did. I'm also a huge cat lover, so you might see one or two of them walking by as we're chatting today.
Oh my goodness. So that kitty actually looks an awful lot like Smokey, one of my cats as well, too. So you might see one of mine as well. Well, fantastic. So Kyla, I invited Kyla on the show really to talk about why educators should consider taking their classroom outside, and where you should go and what should you do when you get there. Kyla, maybe you could start just by telling us a little bit about what happens when we take kids outside.
Yeah, I think about, even back to my own childhood, going outside was like the best part of the day. And when you as an educator are like, all right, it's time to go outside, I feel like if not all the time, most of the time, you're met with like a resounding like, yes, absolutely, and like so much excitement. And it is just an awesome experience that the children love to do. And I'm thinking about, why is that? Why is it the best part of the day? And I think about the fact that children, when they go outside, they feel this like really amazing sense of freedom. And freedom is something that I talk to teachers about all the time, because children's lives right now are just so structured. And, we've got schedules and sports and all sorts of things that we're cramming into their lives. And so I really advocate for times where we can give children freedom to just be and play and be with their peers and explore and just experience whatever it is that they're interested in at that moment.
And so one of the things I just noticed, just was checking out your Instagram story, and one of the things that you used to do as a teacher in Phoenix was you would take your preschool class outside all day for Nature Day once a week. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so like a little bit of background of how it got started. Me and my teaching team, my lead teacher in my classroom, she was kind of overseeing all the preschool programs in our district. Mm-hmm. And so Wednesdays, she was just out of the classroom. So it was like my day to shine. And so she's like, what do you think would bring you joy on this day? And I was like, let's go outside. Let's spend all day outside. And we had an outdoor classroom, which we were lucky enough, the door would connect to our indoor classroom. But we would do that on Fridays. We would just open the door and they could go in and out and spend their time wherever they wanted to. So on Wednesdays, I wanted to do something a little bit different. So instead of utilizing the outdoor classroom, we utilized the campus space. And so all day on Wednesday, from as soon as everyone was checked in, through lunch, we would spend just exploring our elementary campus space.
So it wasn't like you went to a national park or something like that. You just kind of just explored the campus that was there. What kinds of things were your learners doing?
Yeah, so this was in Phoenix, Arizona, and very traditional elementary school campus. So kind of like a U shape around the building. One side was pretty much just grass and a couple of trees, then kind of flowed into the big kids, quote unquote, big kids playground. And then behind that was baseball fields. And the other side was pretty much just grass, a handful of trees. So looking at it and with an adult lens, I'm like, there's not much out there. Like just some grass, a couple trees, baseball field, and a playground, and that's it. We also bumped up into South Mountain, which was really awesome. So we had a nice, beautiful nature space behind our fence. But really, what would we do? It totally depended on what they were interested in. I tried to bring minimal materials with us. So we would bring a wagon that had water bottles and snacks. And then I would either ask them to pick a handful of things that they wanted to take, or I would bring materials to kind of create an invitation. One of my favorite invitations that I ever did in like my whole preschool career was because inside the classroom, I noticed the children were playing like laser maze, which I think is kind of common. Where they're like going up and under and creating it with like tape or yarn, and that can tend to get like really big and take over the entire classroom because you've got string from wall to wall and making obstacles all over the place. And I was thinking like, how can we do this outside, like bigger, better, like way more engaging? And so I'm looking around my classroom and like, I don't like those sticks in the ground that have points. Like if I could put those in there, that would be really helpful, but I didn't have those. And so I opened a closet and I was like, I've got like 20 yardsticks. Like, I think those will go in the ground. And I have 2 wooden mallets. And I've got lots of yarn and scissors. So I just grabbed the 20 yardsticks, the mallets, the yarn, the scissors. I just mentioned that I noticed that they were doing laser mazes and thought they might want to use these materials to do it outside. And we did that for weeks afterwards. So the big open space, every week they would create something new. And it was so cool to watch them work together to like string it up, figure out how they could like wrap the string around the yardstick so it doesn't fall over. Created some really cool patterns. What height should they put the string? And it was, yeah, again, one of my favorites. And we did it for weeks and weeks. So sometimes it can be as simple as that.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I'm just struck by is that it sounded like the invitation for you to create this invitation was really twofold. I mean, one, it was just knowing your students and observing them and knowing the kinds of things that they are interested in doing. But the other part of it was you had a lead teacher who asked you, what do you want to do? What would be fun? Mm-hmm. And I'm just struck by, I'm not sure that many educators in the last couple of years have really considered, what if I just did something all day because it was just the thing that would be fun to do?
Yeah. I actually just sent that out in my January newsletter, like first of the year, think about, actually no, it's December, end of the year. It's like, why don't we just do something for fun just because it's going to be fun? Whether you turn your lights off all day and you put up like sprinkle lights on the ceiling, or maybe you always wanted to do, you can do a water day here in December, or maybe you want to do like a pajama day, or maybe you want to set up just some fabric and like drape it around and create a bunch of little like tents and caves and tunnels. Like, do it, because why not?
And it sounds like, of course, like your experience is so much in that early childhood realm, but I'm easily imagining that that a high school teacher who says, you know what, let's build forts in our classrooms out of the desk, and we're going to do our reading that way today. I could easily imagine something like that happening, or perhaps a math teacher that says, you know what, I can take a whiteboard outside and we can do this lesson outside as easily as in. It just sounds like there really isn't any particular reason not to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just teaching a class. It was for preschool educators, but there was one person in the class who was in charge of after school. So she did pre-K through like fifth or sixth grade.
Mhm.
And she was sharing around the holidays that she brought in like a refrigerator box, and the fifth graders made this like elf transformation thing out of
Mhm.
it. So you like walk in, you come out an elf. And she's like, I would have never thought that my fifth graders would be interested in this box and like making themselves into elves.
Mhm.
But when you provide an open-ended material like that, you just never know what's going to happen, and you get to find out right along with them.
It kind of reminds me, and this is a different situation entirely, but my twins were turning 5, and we had a birthday party at one of those jumpy places here in Tucson. And there's this wall that you can run up, and this obstacle course. And one of the other dads said, "You know what? I'm going to put on some jumpy socks and do this too." And it just occurred to me, it's like, yeah, I actually really wanted to run up this wall and see if I could get to the top. And like, why not? I just assumed that I couldn't because I wasn't turning 5 that day. And it was one of just an amazing moment of a connection between me and my kids, and just thinking about those times where as teachers we can really foster that same kind of connection and relationship too, just by doing something that's just for the fun of it. What I'd like to do though is take a break, because one of the things that I think often happens in this area is there's the strong desire on our part as educators to want to bring these kinds of experiences to our students. And then there's also this huge pressure, but they've got to learn to read. What about the phonics? What about the math facts? What about the curriculum and the this and the that and the whatever? And I would love to explore that with you just a little bit more to see like what might we offer to teachers who are feeling those kind of competing pressures a bit.
Hi, my name is Kyla Maciosek, and I am the founder of Nature Created Play. And I'm excited to announce that I am launching a summit this June 2024 all about nature-based education for early childhood educators. The summit, again, is not until June, but right now I want you to give us a follow on Instagram at Nature Created Play so you don't miss your chance to sign up. We're definitely expecting the summit to fill up, and I'm hosting it with Deanna from Outback Learning. So you're going to get a chance to meet her as well. You'll walk away with a plan to implement nature-based learning, as well as a connection to a community of like-minded individuals. And best of all, we're hoping to end the night with a campfire and some s'mores so you all can network and share ideas together. Again, follow us on Instagram and join our nature-based community of practice.
Well, welcome back, Kyla. We were just talking about all of the amazing things that happen when students have the opportunity to explore, especially just some amazing invitations as you happen, and just that whole idea of just, just do something because it's fun to do, Because if we're doing stuff that we find joy in, our students are going to benefit tremendously, and they're going to be really engaged in all of that stuff that we do. And so I'm wondering, because I can already hear it. I can already hear that administrator who ... or that teacher who ... is saying, yes, but the curriculum, we have stuff and it's going to be tested at the end of the quarter. And there's things that we absolutely have to cover. And we can't get through all of this stuff, but we're spending, 1 day a week outside. How much you even begin? I mean, because I know there's a lot there, but how much you even begin to perhaps open that dialogue up with our colleague who might be in that kind of frame of mind?
Yeah, I've absolutely heard those same things and had that same conversation tons and tons of times. And, listen, when kids are playing, they're learning. The research is very clear. It is very much outlined that play is how children learn best. And when children are playing, they are learning. And it's our job as the professional to look at the play and figure out what learning is happening through the play.
So Kyla, I just can't resist, because one of the things that I do is a lot of school-based interventions for students with ADHD. Novelty and play is physical activity is number one. Then number two, right underneath it, is going to be novelty and play in terms of engaging students with ADHD, especially if families have chosen, not to seek formal treatment outside of school-based supports. And just that idea that Sure, I mean, we choose to lecture for 52 minutes if you'd like to, but we kind of know what we're going to get if we do that. And it sounds like you're saying it doesn't really matter how old the learner is, 0 to 99. If they're playing, they're learning, but particularly if they're like 0 to 18, that's definitely true.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we see that in our own lives, right? Like when we pick up hobbies, we're playing. When we're trying out something new as an adult, we're playing and we're curious and we're lighting up different parts of our brain. So anytime we're doing something new and we're being playful, we're all learning.
Sometimes I even think about when I was a classroom teacher, all my classroom teaching experience was actually in Illinois. Grew up in Arizona, went to Illinois to start my career over there. And it's cold a lot of the year. Like right now, nobody is going outside to do a water day. It's snowy and all get out, all my colleagues right now. And so they might go outside and play in snow and stuff like that, but it's a very different kind of nature that we have access to. And I'll tell you what, that very first nice day in spring, all of us educators, where were we doing guided reading? We were doing it outside. We just went outside and that's where we did guided reading. We just took our whiteboards, our math tools, all the stuff that we needed, the same curriculum that we did inside. We just took it out and did exactly the same thing. And it was just amazing to see without even, because we haven't even gotten to like loose parts yet, right? But like with the most close-ended, not loose parts ever, the engagement of students and just being outside and changing the environment was just incredible. I mean, do you see that with the schools that you work with?
Well, as you were saying that too, you made me remember and want to say the point that nature is good for us and our mental health too. So, we're talking about how great it is for children to go outside and play, but also great for us to go outside with them and put our feet in the dirt and, have some sun shining down on us. So it's good for us too.
So it's not just it's necessarily something that we're doing because it's good for kids. Of course, it's great for kids. We should do things in a child-centered way because it's good for kids. But also that idea of, hey, the person who's leading all this learning matters tremendously in this equation. And you get to do things just because it's fun, just because it's joyful, just because it's good for you too. That is something that's really important to remember. Other work that I do is around the 8 dimensions of wellness, and environmental wellness is one of them. And a big part of that really is go outside, touch grass, touch a tree, and having that kind of mental health there. That's just really just fantastic to think about that just simply by changing the location of the learning, we can get a whole bunch of engagement here too. I want to go back to something that you said, just that idea that if children are playing, they are learning. And one of the things that kids are often good at is just playing. They don't really need us to play. Sometimes they might need an invitation. And I'm wondering how kind of you navigate that a bit. I'm just kind of remembering how you would take the wagon, not much there, to a place where not much there, but you had water. But past that, it might be yardsticks and yarn.
Yeah. Yeah. The interesting thing is, I mentioned when I was talking about that, looking at it with from an adult lens, that there was not much there. However, when you remember to look through a child's eyes, that environment was rich. When we would walk around campus, we would find bunny poop, and that was so cool and exciting. And we would think about where they came from, and we would explore what is in their poop and what's that look like? What does that mean? What do they eat? And our trees, I don't know exactly what it was, some type of like sap, and the children were like, it's tree blood. I'm like, okay, what is tree blood? And oh, you're a bird. Where is it? So in our eyes, because it's just grass, trees, baseball field, playground, you might think it's boring. But to a child, there's so much there. Ants, grasshoppers, other insects that crawl along, worms, etc. There's so much in that environment, even though we are viewing it as boring. That being said, some children, especially if they're not used to playing with loose parts, sometimes it does take a moment to get into it. If they're not used to open-ended play, they might not know what to do because they're so used to being told what to do. Or if you're taking children outside to read, but you're having a hard time because they're just, looking everywhere, they're having a hard time focusing. Well, yeah, they're giving you the message like, hey, I need to move and I need to explore this environment before I can focus on what you want me to do.
Yeah, the smartest thing I ever learned and when I was in teacher school, learning how to teach elementary, but I was a math class in particular, was if you hand students a whole bunch of math toys, you really need to let them spend like 10 to 15 minutes just playing with them. Right? We're not trying to learn anything about it at all. We're not doing anything with decimals or place value or geometry. Like, no, we're just building forts with them. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah, we've got to explore the material first.
Yeah. You have to know, that's how you learn what the material is. Now, you said a couple vocabulary words that are probably really important. And one of them was open-ended play. And then the other one is loose materials. I'm going to ask you kind of like an SAT style question of this. Could you like tell me what those two things are and then like how they're related?
Yeah. So loose materials or loose parts are essentially items that children can use however they want. Because they're not precious, they don't have one specific use. Children can do kind of whatever. So typically they're a material that had a previous life, so to speak. So like a bottle cap or a CD or a box or a paper towel tube. So it had a previous life and now we're allowing it to have a new life. And it doesn't really matter what happens to it. It can be cut or glued or colored because it's generally not precious or something that.
If they mess it up entirely, it causes no problems to anybody. Okay, so that's important to know. We're not like, that is so, why that is so striking to me is because I actually work with a couple of schools that are very interested in essentially purchasing loose parts. And it sounds like then that might be something that I had never really thought to counsel them to explore about. Perhaps it's not wise to do that.
Yeah, I mean, there are some pretty cool manufactured loose parts for sure. However, you could fill a classroom from donations and recyclables easy. You just have to be creative about how you find them. Recycling of yours, your communities, and your community like organizations like landscapers or hardware stores and people like that who might just have scraps or extras or something that they can't sell but is still usable.
Not usable to them.
Not usable to them, but totally usable to us.
I'm just thinking about like I have this a couple of boxes of scrap wood that's like sort of growing in my shed now as I've started these like different home improvement projects and things like that. And it wouldn't matter one bit to me if my 5-year-olds took out their hammers and started hammering and building stuff with them, and it's just as useful to me as a scrap, no matter what they do to it, honestly. And that sounds like the kind of, so then, okay, so let's say they did that, then they had all this loose parts. Is that kind of what open-ended play is about?
Yeah, so those materials just lend themselves to open-ended play. So open-ended play is when materials like loose parts are provided and children can kind of take that however they want. So if you look at a box and I look at a box, we're going to see two totally different things. And what you and I see is probably going to be rooted in our interests, in our lives, something, I might make a cat house, you might make something totally different. And so we kind of get to do whatever we want versus closed-ended, which is a little bit what you were talking about, like using a manipulative in a very specific way, or saying like something very specific about like, can you draw a rainbow? And so you're giving kind of instructions and putting a box around what the child's supposed to do.
So like, here's a kit of pre-cut wood, child, go build your birdhouse, versus a bunch of wood and nails and hammers and stuff. And, what do you want to build? And so that's kind of the more open-ended thing. Why is that better? Because it seems like the likelihood that they're going to come out with a birdhouse the likelihood that a child is going to come out of a birdhouse out of that scrap seems pretty low. So why would you recommend that then as the better way for children to engage with these loose parts?
Yeah, so like I was mentioning, is you're going to get an insight into that child because they're going to show
Yes.
you an interest and they're going to show you a skill that you might not see when they're following instructions or directions. You're going to see a huge increase in creativity and imagination and innovation. You'll see problem solving because there's not instructions. They're going to have to test. You're going to see lots of trial and error trying to figure it out. I could go on and on and on. But
You
a
might
laundry
discover
list.
that your students don't want to build birdhouses, is what you might
Oh
discover.
yeah,
This is really what it sounds like. You might
yeah,
actually discover that the whole set and a framework of all of the stuff that you were working on here might be a really good way to get to a birdhouse or AKA standard perhaps. But through that kind of that open-ended route, we might actually address something even deeper than that. It sounds like kind of where we might be at with that. And I just love the idea
yeah.
of make sure it's not precious. Make sure it's the opposite of that. Make sure it is something that could absolutely be thrown away tomorrow if they decide they don't like it. But I'll bet you an awful lot of students take those loose parts and make something precious out of it, just through that play. Kyla, this is really kind of taking an interesting turn because we started by just like the idea of just going outside, nature, using nature as a classroom. And then we're like now onto this idea of loose parts and open-ended play as being a thing. And I have a hunch that all three are very related in your concept of the best way that we can help children learn and grow and the most joyful way that we can lead that learning as adult facilitators of that. So let's take a break. And when we come back, let's have perhaps a final thought about how that all kind of comes together. Creating inclusive classrooms for students with ADHD is the perfect short online course to learn how to transform the school experience for students with ADHD and to enhance your ability to support their learning. You'll discover evidence-based strategies to improve the social, emotional, and academic success of students with ADHD, even without formal treatment plans or special accommodations. By the end of this course, you'll have an in-depth understanding of ADHD and its impact on learning, how to advocate effectively for students with ADHD, learn how to provide frequent prompts and positive feedback, some amazing strategies that will reduce unhelpful behaviors and encourage helpful ones, and respond to symptoms of ADHD in a way that enhances connection, reduces teacher frustration, and boosts student success. It's an amazing course, and I hope to see you there. Welcome back, Kyla. It has just been absolutely fantastic talking to you about getting kids outside, about using nature as a classroom, about loose parts and open-ended play, and all of the amazing opportunities we have to help students learn and grow, and really just to do stuff that's just fun for us as the people leading this learning as well. And I'm imagining even being the principal that's giving their staff permission to do these amazing kinds of things. What a better space to be in than let's turn to worksheet page 12 and get started. So it just given all of the ground that we've covered, I'm wondering what final thought you might have for us, or especially for educators who are getting started with this way of teaching and way of helping students experience the world.
Yeah, I have been reflecting on, my own business mission and vision, and part of that is ultimately my job is to do what's best for children, and I don't want to apologize for that. And what we know is best for young children is time spent outdoors, away from screens, head out of a book for a little bit, right? We know that those things are what's best for children. And just knowing that when you provide those types of experiences, even if the first time it feels a little bit chaotic or you're not quite sure what to do, or just knowing that what you're doing is best for the children in your care can just be really powerful.
So our job is to do what is best for kids. It's always been our job to do what's best for kids. And what's best for kids is to get outside and to experience nature and to experience what we can create through loose parts and open-ended play. Kyla, thank you so much for being here today, and thank you for sharing your experience with our listeners. And listeners, I hope you enjoyed our show today, and I definitely hope that you follow Kyla on Instagram. So you can find Kyla on Instagram at Nature Created Play. And you can find me on Instagram at TGS Educational Consulting. And if you work in a school, I would love it if you would just tell me about the last time you took your students outside to play, learn, play, in the comments below. And until next time, may you have many opportunities to be as generous and as good to yourself as you are to those that you serve.